Ready?
No, but let's do it.
Nervous?
Yes, you know how I am.
No, how are you?
I don't like public speaking. I don't like
It's not
talking.
public speaking. It's just you and me.
But there's a microphone.
What do you mean?
I don't do well with microphones.
It's just right there. You don't even have to think about it.
I will try. I'll do my best.
Welcome back to Legends in Wrestling. No. Welcome back to Legends in My Own Mind. I'm sitting here today with, gosh, how do we even talk about you and your career? One of the long-standing vets in Central Illinois. Been around almost as long as me. Almost. You could say you've had a wider. I mean, you had a longer road, maybe. Like you know.
Well, I started off on one path, and then.
Yeah. It's wound a little more. I feel like yours is wound a little more. You know, mine's kind of like a straight shot. Like mine's almost like a circle. Like it just goes around and around in a circle, and you've kind of wound around. And you started in one place, came to some other places.
Yeah.
Been the manager.
Yes.
So that's. Oh, guys, it's Stephani King.
We've been running with the lions. We've been running with the lions. They can't run, they can't hide. We won't stop until they're down. We've been running with the lions.
Hi.
No, so I wanted to get you on first of all, because I've done several wrestlers, and you're a manager.
Yeah.
You're another aspect, another viewpoint of the business, and I want to talk to all. I want to talk to all wrestlers. All wrestlers have a different story, but also like wrestler stories kind of come down to like they can only be so different, you know, short of.
I watched wrestling as a kid. Hogan's my hero, and that's why I want to wrestle.
Something like that. I'll go something like that. So, I'll start off. How'd you get into wrestling? How did you? Not how did you get into wrestling, but were you a fan growing up? What are your early memories?
When I was younger, like little, Hulk Hogan was my hero. I know. I hated Jake the Snake because
Damn it, you were supposed to change the mold. No.
Well, I hated Jake the Snake because he had a snake. That's my logic.
Okay.
But I remember seeing Miss Elizabeth in her like evening gowns, and that's what I liked.
Yeah.
And I liked Ultimate Warrior because he was crazy and he was colorful, and when you're a child.
Some of those guys you couldn't help like they were just designed to be like to appeal to kids,
yeah.
Right? You know, Ultimate Warrior. No kid, no child could look at the Ultimate Warrior and not think that's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Very similar to Hulk Hogan, bright colors and doing the ear deal. Like little kids are like, that's cool. So no, I get that.
Kids like colors.
Yeah, yeah. But it seems like. And this is another thing, it seems like all the people in the business, when you talk to somebody who's been like a lifelong fan and they're just a fan, it's so like, oh, Hogan, and I remember the Ultimate Warrior and he was such a badass and whatever else, right?
Yeah.
I loved Jake the Snake, or I hated the $1 Million Man, And it seems like a lot of times. Particularly, I think I haven't talked to a lot of younger generation guys yet because they're not legends. They're not legends yet. but for our generation, it seems like you talk to those guys and it's all the same, except there's always like one thing that the people in the business. When you talk to people in the business, they're like, oh yeah, I agree, Hogan and Warrior, and I was young, but. And there's like one little thing that they pick out that's like, I remember this, and then, I remember Jake the Snake, and he was the coolest. You know what I mean?
Miss Elizabeth was my thing.
Yeah. So,
kind of predestined to be drawn to the manager.
Right. So how much did that influence? Like, maybe this is a dumb question or a guy question, but it's not like there were a lot of women during the rock and wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there really wasn't.
Was it how much? I guess what I'm asking is like how much of seeing Miss Elizabeth was just that she was kind of like the only girl around, and how much of it was like the Miss Elizabeth character, aura, glamour, like what she brought.
It was probably lack of female representation, but it was the dresses. She was gorgeous, and I wanted to wear pretty dresses because again, I'm 4.
Wow.
And and actually,
so you don't want to wear pretty dresses anymore?
Now I like wanted to be heard because I wanted to wear pretty dresses,
right.
And so now that's what I do is I wear pretty clothes.
There you go. Perfect.
And and I fell out of watching wrestling when I was a kid, and I missed the whole DX thing. I missed the whole Rock thing. Steve Austin. I missed all of that, and I feel like I've been left behind. Like I can go back and watch now, but it's not the same as watching it when it was happening.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder how much of that though is like the times. You know what I mean? Like, we would have been. When I was, that's the stuff that drew me in. See, I'm one of the rare ones that was not like a fan my whole life. I remember like Hulk Hogan because he was everywhere, and I remember the Ultimate Warrior because wrestling was a thing. And I have friends that were into wrestling, but like I didn't get into it until high school when it was The Rock and Austin, and
Yeah, I probably stopped somewhere around middle school, and then I didn't pick it up again until I had moved from Florida to Illinois when I was 23.
Yeah.
So I was on hiatus for a long time.
Okay. So what took you away? What did you get sick of it? Did you grow out of it? Did you decide it was stupid? Like.
Yeah, I got sick of it, and I thought it was stupid. And my little brothers were into my little brother had the Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior little slamming buddies or whatever they were, and they wanted to wrestle all the time, and I did not. I did not feel like having my little brother beat me up all the time.
Man, nothing can make something less cool than when your little brother gets into it, right? Like,
exactly.
Like instantly, it's like, well, I loved this thing, but you like it now, so it's got to be stupid. Younger siblings or parents, if either one of them get into that thing, all of a sudden it's the worst.
And it was my dad that watched. And then it was my stepdad that watched. So, I kind of grew up with it. And then, we'd go over to his friend's house and he'd be watching it. So I was raised around it.
Right.
And I enjoyed it when I was little. And then when my little brother was, trying to drop an elbow on me all day long, I was done with it.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Got too real for you.
Yeah.
So what gets you back into it?
I moved back to Illinois and I met some people. And as a fan, they were playing the SmackDown Here Comes the Pain or Bring the Pain. It had Brock Lesnar on the cover.
Oh, okay.
And it's old. That's 2003.
Well, I was going to say that would have been from his first run. Yeah.
Yeah. And a little thumbnail of Randy Orton popped up on the screen, and I go, ooh, who's that? So, and at the time, Randy Orton was part of Evolution, and that's when I started watching.
Okay.
Started watching again for Randy Orton.
So you saw a picture of a cute guy on a video game, and you started watching a whole TV show for it. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. I was into it after that.
Okay. So, how do you go from watching cute boys on video games to being in it?
Well, the guys that were playing the video games were also backyard wrestlers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And,
we all were. No shame.
I show up because they're putting on their show, and I had a couple of drinks, and it looked like a lot of fun. And so they're like, you should be a manager. And I'm like, okay. And so I started hanging out with them, and then they started talking about a promotion that was going on in Peoria, because I'm like, there's got to be something else I can...
Hold on. What was the backyard promotion name? Was the Backyard Fed?
I think it was BCW. Bartonville Championship Wrestling, I think is what it was.
All right. That's a little more respect. You know, it seems like most backyard feds fall into either two categories where it's like, you know, extreme barbed wire wrestling. You know what I mean? They're trying to and not necessarily what they're doing as much as they're trying to make it. They, you know, like they could call themselves extreme barbed wire wrestling without ever having an inch of barbed wire around, but you know, that sounds cool. Or, you know, it's like I knew some that were like called, you know, the Backyard Wrestling Federation, or what was ours? I think ours was the Neighborhood Wrestling Federation, something like that. And it seems to me like you immediately know where the mindset is, and you know, like the ones that are like, hey, we're neighborhood, backyard, whatever, like if it's a sensible kind of name, they're probably okay. Maybe I'm biased to say that, but you know, there's probably a different mindset. All right, so did you have a backyard manager name?
Yes.
What was
Well, they called me Cherry. And they had me coming out to Cherry Pie by Warrant.
You had your own entrance music? You didn't just come out with a dude?
No.
Okay.
Well, I came out with him, but they would like play my music too.
Oh, okay. So like
They
you
play like
you would
some
come
of
out
my music, and then
he
it would hit. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That seems odd. Even for backyarders. Even for backyarders. Okay. Who'd you manage?
They all did several characters.
How many of them were there? How many guys?
I can remember 4.
4. Okay. So there's 4 guys, and they all had several characters. All right. So who'd you manage?
I don't remember their names, their character names. I'm just, you know, I mean, I'm still friends with him. Like, we still talk to this day.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So moving on, how'd you move from backyard to?
Well, they were talking about the promotion in Peoria.
Right.
But they didn't like them. And I was told, don't you dare go to their shows, because then theyll try and steal you away from us.
Were you getting paid?
What?
Were you getting paid for the backyard shows?
No.
Okay.
And first of all, you don't tell me what I am and am not going to do.
Right.
If you tell me I'm not going to do something, I'm very, very likely going to do it.
Okay. That's good.
So
you haven't changed. That's
yeah, no. This is.
All right. So
then I go to.
they send you over there.
Yeah, basically told me to go.
Yeah.
And I go to one of the shows one night, and it's in a setup similar to this. Very, very compact area.
Right.
And I start hanging out with all the wrestlers. I go outside during halftime, and I meet one of them. And so he and I started talking to each other, and I started spending more time with him, and he lived with one of the other wrestlers. And then I started going and doing the training with them. And they gave me, and then that was...
So before we get too far in, what's your first impression when you come from backyard? So, you know, from the watching cute boys on the video game to the backyard. Did you have fun backyarding, or was it just like...
It was fun.
Was it fun to do the backyarding, or was it fun just to hang out with the guys?
It was fun to do the backyarding.
Okay.
And then, when I moved up to, the
All
other...
right. So you have a little interest in the actual performance, wrestling, whatever. It's not just, I'm hanging out with the dudes.
Yeah.
Right. So when you come from backyard to an indie fed, what's your first impression?
So much better. And, and there was a lot more guys there was a couple that did duplicate characters, but not too many, because they had plenty of talent that they were using. And there was another female manager there, so I now wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
And it was a lot more camaraderie. So, I enjoyed hanging out with them as well as helping out with the shows.
Okay. All right. So meet some of the guys, you start hanging around, you start coming to training. What's the vision when you start coming to training?
I did not realize how hard it is to fall properly. And they had me just start in the ring, and that was a little too much for me, so then we had me start on a crash pad.
Okay.
And then I got a little bit better with landing, and then they moved me up to trying to learn how to do like a flip.
Mm-hmm.
And so
were you thinking you were going to wrestle, or was it always?
I wanted to
When
see.
I take in somebody who wants to come as a man, I don't take them into the ring until they need to be. Until they need. I mean, eventually a manager has to learn how to take a few falls, take a few bumps, but like I don't. When a manager comes in to train, I don't put them in the ring with the guys and have them start teaching them bumps. So.
Like, they wanted me to be a wrestler.
Right.
Because they don't have any female wrestlers.
Right.
But, so I would have been an attraction.
Yeah.
And I was kind of interested in it. And honestly, I feel like all managers should be trained like the boys.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay.
And we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. This one, yeah. So we'll have to do a whole episode on that.
Yeah. And they had given me a character as a manager.
What was the character?
Charlotte. I was a hillbilly. I bought jeans and made little cutoff shorts, had the plaid shirt tied at the waist, cowboy boots, hat.
Who are you managing?
Elmer. He
Char-
was their masked character.
So Charlotte seems like a weird. Was he a cowboy gimmick?
Yes.
Or a hillbilly gimmick?
Yes, he
Yeah?
wore like overalls
Okay.
and
So I don't. That's so odd to me because, normally like the hillbilly gimmick is not the mask gimmick, or the mask gimmick is not a hillbilly gimmick. It's usually back then it was always a luchador deal.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, he's wears a mask, whether he was Mexican or could do a flip or not. He had to be El something Reno, El Mascarino guy.
well, he was Elmer.
I guess so. I guess it fits. All right, so you and Elmer start. So you start managing Elmer. Charlotte seems like a weird name for and maybe that's just now because I think of Charlotte Flair, but like it still seemed like it wasn't like Ellie Mae or what's another Misty. I don't know.
Well, Elmer was from North Carolina. So,
Okay.
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Got it.
I had,
Which okay.
yeah. It was
All
never
right.
my thing, but that's what I was given, and that's what I worked
you're
with.
from Florida, it's close.
Yeah.
It's all that East Coast. You-
No.
All right. So you manage Elmer. What was it like starting to manage at an actual indie show? Or how was it different? How about that? How was it different?
Well, there was a real crowd.
There was a real crowd.
People paid to get in.
So how does that? You don't like public speaking. How was that? Were you nervous then? Were you how was that for you?
I was really nervous, and I was at this time. Elmer was a good guy, so
Okay.
I had to come out and I had to be a good guy, and it involved the other female manager, and I had to pull her off the ring, and then we were supposed to get into a little cat fight.
Was that Peanut?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was supposed to be me having a big misunderstanding. And that's probably the biggest memory I have, other than getting in and doing, because he came out to Cotton Eye Joe.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and dancing in the ring.
As he must.
And
Does he still work on a book Elmer?
So, when he won, we'd do a dance in the ring.
Did you win a lot? I bet he won a lot more when he had you because they wanted to get you dancing in the ring.
I mean, I think so. But again,
So who comes? I'm curious. Who comes up with the Elmer gimmick, or who comes up with you as the hillbilly? Like they give that to you? Did he pitch it to you? Did the promoter book it to you? Like,
The
how do you get
promoter
to
pitched
that?
it.
Okay.
And the promoter was like, "This is what you're gonna do."
All right.
And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah. No argument you didn't have. Had you had anything in mind for yourself other than that?
No.
No. Just this is cool. Let's do it.
Yeah. And I felt at the time I don't know really anything,
Right.
so it's not my job to tell the promoter what I am gonna do.
Right. As it is not.
So I'm green, and I'm just like, all right, this is what you want me to do. This is what we're gonna do.
All right. So how does that evolve? How long are you Charlotte for?
Maybe 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
Not very long.
Yeah.
Because then one of the guys from the Peoria had found New Midwest.
Okay.
And so they had started coming down to shows. And so then Justin and I started coming down. And we came and we watched a show. And actually the first show we watched was Ryan Cruz's debut.
Really?
Yes.
No way.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And like Benz and Scotty Cash were a tag team, and they were
Right.
goofy, and they were wearing the yellow and black camo.
Yeah.
And like one of them had a cell phone and was sitting on somebody talking on the cell phone in the middle of the match.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. I was probably mad about that.
Probably. Well, and then after we'd watched that show, we had decided we wanted to come down and do training, and we would come down every week on Wednesdays and do training with New Midwest.
Yep. So you're still managing Elmer then?
I was starting to break away from the Peoria group. Like, I was still there, but spending more time with New Midwest once we found New Midwest.
Right.
But we
Okay.
found New Midwest through other people in Peoria.
Yeah. Sinister and Chris Hazard. I remember.
Yep.
I remember when they came. I don't remember who. I don't remember how they got on, but I remember them coming down and you guys being there with them.
Well, they had come down and worked a show, and when they'd come back, they were like, "Man, this is you really should come check this out." And
They worked 2 shows. They worked more than one show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because then they worked the next show, and then we came down with them to the next show, and then they were done after that.
Yeah. And then you guys never left.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So what was it?
Rude.
That's the way, man. It seems like I feel like it is louder. Like that road is louder in here than it would be if we were standing outside on the corner.
Well, I mean, do you want to deal with this or the train from Auburn?
I mean,
Because that was pretty awful too.
well, the thing was though, like the train was it would take longer, but it was also like more predictable and like we would know when it's coming and we could like cut off. This is just like randomly. Oh, good, thanks, man. Anyway, all right. So you're moving away from Peoria. What was it that had you moving away from Peoria? Was things getting stale? Was there stuff going on there? Was it just
there was some drama and it was getting kind of stale.
Yeah.
And
tired of managing Elmer?
Well,
Tired of
I just felt like I wasn't really growing.
Was that?
And the person who did Elmer, he did another character too, which is why he was masked, and he
Yeah.
was getting older, and he was tired of doing it.
Yeah.
So he was kind of starting to bow out,
Right. So
and I was kind of just floating.
that makes sense. I'm shocked they didn't have something else for you to do. I mean, I'm sure they would have found something, but you found something else to do.
Yeah.
So okay, so that was going on up there. So you guys start coming down to training and start moving New Midwest way. What was it about New Midwest that brought you down?
Training was light years better. And it just, we enjoyed the shows. It was a bigger crowd. It was a bigger, and this is when we were out at Bradfordton. So, parking was problem, but the building was perfect.
Yeah, those are great shows.
Yeah.
I remember you guys coming down. We had a really tight knit group
Yeah.
in Springfield for New Midwest. I mean, we were really, I mean there were, I don't know, factions and
There was the
people would
inner
talk
cir-
about the inner circle and everybody
There
else,
was the
but
inner
like
circle and then the circle.
right, but but within the circle, I mean, the circle is still pretty tight knit, and I feel like I remember it kind of like you guys came and
We just kind
fit
of
right in,
yeah.
like you guys just dropped right in, and that doesn't happen a lot. That
It
almost
was-
never happened in New Midwest. Like even some people who came and like stuck around for a while that maybe never quite made it into the circle, or like it took a while
Yeah.
to bring them into the circle, but it seemed like you guys came and just kind of like fit in right away.
Yeah. And it felt like that. It
Yeah.
felt like, it was the puzzle piece. And
Yeah, you just a good fit.
Yeah.
So you guys started. Did you guys start working right away? We didn't have you start right away. You guys trained with us for a little bit, right?
Well, if I remember right, our first show was the May show, and we had started coming around in April.
Okay.
So, like, we were in training. We were there
Yeah.
for training until, like, the May show started.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, hey, guess what?
Well, I remember, I remember kind of being, because I was involved with training and I was involved with, helping book the shows and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I do kind of remember it being like, hey, these guys are going to come down for this show. Like I remember booking you guys for the show and then being impressed that you started showing up for training.
Yeah.
Like I remember that being a thing that kind of sold us and sold us all on you guys, because we were, because we had booked, Sinister and Chris Hazard. And they just came for the shows, and that was fine. We didn't expect them to come to training or anything, but the fact that you guys, like, we booked you guys, and then you started showing up to training, like, I think that.
Yeah, we drove from Peoria.
Right. Oh, for sure. For sure.
Every week.
Yeah.
And, it was fun. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And it was just nice hanging out with everybody. And I think that's why we fit in so well, is because we did things to integrate ourselves into New Midwest.
For sure. For sure. Okay, so when you guys come in, Justin's doing the. Did he have a? I don't remember his. Did he have a moniker?
I don't think so, other than Justin McIntyre.
Justin McIntyre.
And then I was his documentarian.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say. I remember like that. That's what I was coming to, but I was trying to remember his gimmick first. I remember I really liked his entrance music. It was the. Oh man.
He switched music a lot.
The one I remember that I really liked was the one he used first, and it was.
The only one I really remember is
like,
3 Days Grace.
No, it was
but
like,
it wasn't that. That
no,
wasn't.
No, it was like Better Than You. I have to find it. I'll find it and put it right here. Put the name of it, because I know what it is. I just can't pull it out. So I'll remember and I'll put the name right here. So how do you come up with a documentarian from Charlotte to the documentarian?
It was Justin's idea. And because a lot of indie wrestlers, if you want to go places, you have to have tape of yourself, and a lot of indie wrestlers don't have tape of themselves. And I had a video camera, and he was like, well, this way I can have my own tape and that I can send to other promotions if I
Right.
want to. So that's
Yep.
what really started it, because everyone thought it was fake, and I'm like, no, I legitimately am recording.
Yeah. For real. That was cool. How'd you feel about that?
Once he explained the gimmick, and it
Yeah.
made sense, and I was on board with it. What I wasn't on board with was using my legitimate name. I was like, I want a fake name. He's like, no, your name's a great wrestling name, so we're going to use that.
Really?
I'm like, I got no choices in any names I've ever had.
No? Well,
And now it's too late.
it's a good name. It's a good name. It's a good name, though.
I've been Stephanie King in wrestling since 2004.
You could change it. You could start wearing a mask and do something else.
Do
It's
two
never
characters.
something like that. Defeat the purpose. I'm trying to get you out of the Stephanie King. So what's it like coming from shows to like talked about kind of backstage transitioning from one group to the New Midwest group? What's it like kind of transitioning from the Peoria shows to the Springfield shows?
I mean, there wasn't really much to transition from. It was a larger crowd. There was a lot more guys. It was a lot more just variations of talent.
Yeah.
So it was on a larger scale than Peoria.
Yeah.
So that was
any big spots you remember from when you were managing Justin?
I really don't have any big spots. One of my favorite memories, though,
There we go.
at the USA Sports Center is with Madman, and he was with the Church of Ron, and he was a bad guy at the time, and so he was coming back from being out in the ring, and he was coming through the curtain, and he's and somebody's standing backstage with their baby, and he's coming through the curtain, and he sees the baby, and he goes. He went from this big monster to this teddy bear of a person, and that's
Don.
Yeah.
That was Don.
That's my absolute favorite memory of Don.
Yeah, it's a good one. So, how do you grow? How do you evolve through New Midwest? So I remember you managed Justin for a while. Did
Mr.
you switch
Hollywood.
to? I was gonna say you switched to John after that, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Hollywood,
Stan
Salinger.
Still keeping
How
the
did that-
documentarian.
Right. Justin had turned face, right? I'm trying to remember. So remind me how that worked.
He was turning face, and I turned on him, and I kicked him at the end of a match, cost him the match, and Stan beat him up, and then I left with Stan.
Okay. And it just fit because you were doing the video camera thing, the documentarian thing,
And he was
to
Mr.
go with Mr. Hollywood. Right. Was there anything else? I mean, anything else behind that switch? Do you remember?
I know it was Justin's idea, and he brought it to
Yeah.
the bookers, and everyone was like, "That's fantastic!" And
Yeah.
and so we split up from there, and he became a good guy, and I remained a bad guy.
Yeah. What was it like switching wrestlers?
It's different, and and John, every wrestler. I'd never worked. Well, I'd worked with Thelmer, and then I worked with Justin. Justin was very aware of my presence and how to try and if I
Right.
needed to be involved in a match and
Yep.
how to how it would work with the story.
Right.
And then Stan was still, I think, coming out with 4GQ every once in a while,
I was gonna say that
because I know me and Cherry Malone were ringside at one point for one
Right.
match.
Yeah.
And so there was always a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
But, and he used me, and I stayed with him for a long time.
Yeah.
I was even when he transitioned to John Magnus.
Right. Is that?
And I think
Yeah.
yeah.
Did he transition? When did he make that transition?
We were at Lanphier.
Lanphier. Man, that was a long time.
Well, and we were with the USA Sports Center, and then we had the problems with there, and so then we had gone to what was that little building?
The America Center.
The American Center. We were there for like 2 or 3 shows. It was real temporary, and then we got in with the warehouse.
Ooh, no. We were at the America Center for a long time. We went to the America Center for like one show, then we went to Southeast for like one show.
Yeah,
and then we
remember
were
that.
at the America Center for like a year or more
See?
before we went to the because I think we had 2 November Rains at the.
Did we? Because
at
I
the
thought we
America
only had the
Center.
one.
I think we had 2. I think we caught one because I'm pretty sure we were like we caught one on the tail end because we moved in the middle of a year. Southeast was like August, an
Yeah, it
August
was a
show.
summer show.
And then we were in the America Center for November Rain that year. And then we went like all the way to another January, I think.
Well, I know we were in the
I
warehouse
think we were there almost.
by summer of 2005.
Oh, years don't. Summer of 2005.
Summer of
so-
2006, excuse me, because I was going to end up pregnant. And we were there months before that.
Okay.
And I
But-
know
but
we
that
had a
seems-
November, and we
well,
had a
but
November Rain there. We
I
had
think
the
we had.
2005.
I think we had two because that
Yeah.
sounds because we would have been okay. So I dropped my championship to Real World Jeremy in August of 2003. We were out of that was in the USA Sports Center. We were out of the USA Sports Center. The last show there was the Lexi Cup that Spencer won.
Yeah.
El Diablo won. That would have been the next year. So that would have been 2004. So we'd have been in the America Center for November Rain 2004, and then I think we were there for 2005.
No, 2005.
Yeah.
It was because I had come back from Florida and we had our banquet at the warehouse that year because I had just got Hurricane Wilma had hit and I was in Florida and I'd gotten back and then they were like, "Hey, you're gonna host this award with Cherry Malone." And I was like, I don't know what to say. And she's like, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, I just got in.
Yeah.
I have just enough time to go get a dress. And then, we'd done pretty formal that year. And then you had that whole table of alcohol and somebody brought an Xbox.
Still mad about that. Why we gotta bring up old shit? I'm still
Again, that's
mad.
another one of my favorite memories.
Still mad. $200. I had like $200, and when I was like, now, I mean, not that I would be happy about it now, but like now $200 is just like that's a lot of money. Back then, $200 worth of alcohol, that was
That was
like
a lot of money.
that was like my whole year. I was mad, and I guess we have to tell the story because the Marvel Shane Matthews wanted to do a burnout.
Yep.
A real burnout because they were playing Burnout,
Yep.
and Marvel Shane Matthews wanted to show somebody a real burnout, so he went and just somersaulted across the table of alcohol. I was
And then walked away like it didn't even happen.
Yeah, just got up and like dusted off like Laurel and Hardy or some shit. Walked away. I was like,
I was mad at that time too.
might have been the maddest I'd ever been at that point.
Yep. So
Anyway.
anyway,
So you work with John. What's it like working with John Magnus, Stan Salinger?
I used to joke that I was his wrestling wife. And it got to the point where the guys like to talk about their matches and what they're going to do, and I kind of just stopped paying attention because we'd been together so long, I didn't really need to.
Yeah.
I knew what I needed to do when it was time to do it, unless it was something very specific they needed me to do for that show.
Right. Did you do a lot with John? I don't remember. Some guys work real well with managers and like really showcase their managers, and I feel like some guys do not. And like even when they have a manager, like it's just there, and almost kind of like not judging either one as better or worse, because it also like a manager needs to know how to insert themselves. But it seemed to me like, John was a little more like where he would kind of do his thing and it was left a little more up to you to kind of insert yourself.
Yeah, and I'm sure because he had been part of 4GQ for a while, so he was used to a bigger crowd, a bigger group to deal with, and then it was just me and him.
Right.
And so I think that was a little awkward for the both of us for a while. And then, once we figured things out and once I got to know him and he got to know me, like I said, unless it was something super big that I needed to really pay attention and focus to, I was free to do what I wanted.
Just kind of find your spots.
Yeah.
Good. So what's your next evolution in the business? Next thing that happens.
Well, New Midwest falls apart.
Yep.
And so I'm on hiatus for several years. And then PWA pops up.
Well, hold on. we don't just get to breeze over the part where you buy New Midwest.
Oh yeah, that too. I owned it.
So you buy New Midwest.
Yep.
So how was that?
Stressful.
Yeah.
It was very stressful.
Yeah, it was a hot mess. It was coming off of
A couple of owner changes.
Several owner changes back to back, and that just broke the. And it was New Midwest was on a downslide. Empires rise and fall, right?
Yeah.
And New Midwest had gone through a couple cycles, and we were on the downslide of a cycle anyway. And you were one of the ones that caught it.
Yeah. Well, and what really did us in was the whole thing with Lanfair. We had worked out a deal with the principal, and we carried our insurance like we were supposed to, and the principal was cool with us being there. And, we just had to make sure and they paid they had the people who came in and cleaned up afterwards. Like, we had to set up the ring and set up the chairs and tear everything down so they could sweep the floor.
Right.
And the people who did, and at the time, our ticket sales benefited their girls' volleyball team. So, we were doing something for the community, for a school that needed help, for a sports team, and the girls had been able to buy like new nets and things that they needed for the couple of years we were there. And then the school board stepped in.
Of course.
Because
they
got greedy.
As they do.
And they wanted us to pay an obscene amount of money to the school board to use the school. So nobody would have been benefiting. So we had to stop because
it's too much.
Yeah.
That's a thing that seems to happen a lot. People who don't understand. So many people just, outside the business only think WWE. And so, then when they find out like, oh, this wrestling thing is here. Oh, well, they must be as rich as Vince.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, well, let's, man, they're making it. We need a cut of that, And it's a fair thought process. It's just wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The school board, for what we were making, for what we were paying probably seemed ridiculously low, we're giving them this building for free and they're making out like bandits. We need our cut. That's a fair thought process. Except they're wrong.
Yeah, we broke even. That's what we did.
Right.
Is we broke even every month.
We broke even, and you got some new volleyball nets. Okay, so let's come and ask us. We'll tell you. But it happens a lot.
Yeah, and and it was stressful on the relationship that I had with Justin at the time, and
it's all stressful.
Yeah. And
so what was the biggest switch from going from being a talent to being an owner? What was the biggest switch? Or was the biggest, the thing that you can quantify? I mean, I know it's obviously more stress and all of a sudden you're responsible for it, like all that stuff, yeah. But like, in your relationship to the business, what was the biggest change?
I was looked at as being like a boss, and that was not how I was used to being looked at. And, being a responsible person. No.
Yeah.
That's how I know we were in the warehouse, and it was, I want to say it was June of 2005 when we bought it, because then we did the air show July of 2005, and it was like, we had just bought it, and then it was the air show, and we were scrambling to get things done. And Sage Ramsey and his dad bought like a tent that we could have outside to try and keep people from getting sunburnt. And then there was the negative press, and which was my fault, but whatever.
Whatever happens.
Because everyone knew about the news article because I was at my normal job, and they heard about the news article and they thought it was hilarious. All the bosses thought it was hilarious. I did not think it was hilarious at the time. It's funny now, but it wasn't then. And then
So they're all wondering what happened. It's a long time ago. You got to give the specifics.
I know. At the time, Spencer Powers is wrestling Sage, and we're going to ring outside. I'm trying to hand out flyers, and I set a stack of them down, and they're blowing all over the ring. And I'm in a mini skirt, which has shorts attached, and, a tank top because it's 100,000 degrees. And I'm trying to pick all the flyers up, and I'm kind of in the ring, and I see them coming at me, and I dive out of the ring. And then there was a newspaper article. Somebody wrote in their opinion, and they were very upset, and I quote, at my thong-clad bare rear end. Again, I had on shorts. Sorry, your husband liked it. But I was embarrassed that got around work.
Right, yeah.
And then at the next show, we decided to poke a little fun at it.
Yeah.
So
as you do, that seems to be the wrestler that like that's how we work through these things. That's our therapy is like, okay, well,
we deal with trauma.
We'll just do this at the show then.
But so what I had done is I had on another cute little mini skirt with shorts and a cute little vest, and then I put on like a turtleneck with long sleeves and a skirt down to my ankles, and then we did a little bit, and Stan was like, what are you wearing? And I'm like, well, because of that newspaper article, they don't want to see my thong-clad bare rear end anymore. So, I just want to make sure I'm giving the fans what they want. And then he was like, who cares? And I was like, you know what? You're right. Who cares what these inbred toothless people want? I'm going to do what I want. And so then I rip off the clothes to reveal the cute outfit underneath. It's also one of my favorite pictures of me. My hair's all curled and I've got the microphone in them. And I look cute.
Perfect. All right, so New Midwest falls apart, on hiatus for a few years, and then PWA.
PWA had been running for a while, but
Was there anything? Did you do anything during your hiatus?
No,
just
being a mom.
Just being a mom. All right, so New Midwest, just when you think you're out.
Well, and
PWA. I've been doing that. Man, I've been doing that all week. I don't know what it is, but I've not like 10 years I've been with PWA. I've not and then just like in the last week and a half, they've just become one in my mouth. So. Anyway, so
well, and my relationship had fallen apart at that point too, and I had time. I had free time,
right?
Because my child was with her father, and so there were weekends I didn't have anything to do, and so I was like, well, let me go to a show because I had missed my friends.
Yeah, it's all the New Midwest guys anyway. So
yeah. This is New Midwest 2.0.
Right, yeah.
So I come to a show, I sit in the back, and then a couple of fans recognize me. And they were like, oh my God, are you coming back? And I'm like, no, I'm just here for the show. And I came to a couple of shows before I was approached. And and like Sage Ramsey had approached me, his mother had approached me, asking me if I wanted to come back. And I was just kind of hemming and hawing on it, like I missed my friends and I missed hanging out with everybody, but did I really want to get back into this?
Right.
And, and so I think after Sage had approached me, I was like, all right, let's go ahead and give this a chance. And I'd reached out to you and you're like, okay, give me some time. And so it was a couple of months went by and then you're like, all right, this show. And you'd put me with All Eyes on Us. And man, they put me through my paces.
So first of all, hold on, what is the build up process like? So you've decided you've been on hiatus for a couple of years, you were hemming and hawing, and now you're gonna come back. How do you get back in that? Like how does that go through your head for then the next weeks, months, whatever it took?
Yeah, I was, because I didn't know what I was going to be doing,
right.
And just kind of, I trusted you,
yeah,
and what you wanted to do, and who and that was the other thing. When I was coming to the shows, I'm like, what can I bring to the show? Who would benefit from having me as a manager? I wanted to, get to know the talent that way. If I was asked if I had a preference, I would have a response.
Right.
So.
What was going to be your response? I didn't ask, but.
Well, because now I don't even remember.
You don't even remember?
But I don't even, and
Yeah.
I didn't really think all eyes on us because they were already super over.
Right.
And I was like, really? I don't really think they need me all that much. But I worked really well with them.
Mm-hmm. So you said a minute ago they put you through your paces.
Yeah.
Let's find that.
They used me, like I'd have 4 or 5 spots every show.
Yeah.
Like I'd come back sweating almost as much as them. And I'm like, look, I'm not supposed to be sweating here. That's not why I'm here.
Yeah.
I remember one time somebody asked me, I was backstage and they're like, hey, where's Micah and Chris? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just here to look pretty and do bad things.
That's a t-shirt.
So
That's a t-shirt.
that was pretty much my motto in PWA. I'm here to look pretty and do bad things.
They were good. All eyes. You guys were a real good package, and that wasn't when I brought you back. I wasn't thinking about what you could bring to the show, and I don't mean that in a negative way. You know what I mean? But like that's not the way. Like I was thinking about what package could I put together? You know what I mean? Like I wasn't thinking, like it'd be easy to be like, well, a lot of times it seems like, well, we've got this manager, who needs a mouthpiece, or who can she get extra heat for? And that's not really how I book the business, like a lot of times that's done, I see that as like hiding a weakness. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And, sometimes you do that, you've got this guy and we have to book this guy because he's the promoter's uncle, cousin, best friend, whatever, right? And he's bad and he can't wrestle, or, maybe he's a guy who works really hard but just never quite gets it. So maybe we put some considerations. Maybe he can work with a manager who will, get over, and then he can do the stuff in the ring, whatever.
Yeah.
Particularly in those early days of PWA, I had the luxury of not having to think about that. Like that's the other thing. Like we had a real solid roster at the time, so I didn't have to think about that. I could think about what package could I put together that would elevate the package basically. That would put and I honestly I don't know that I ever considered many other people than them. It was just kind of the consideration of like, I wanted to talk to them and see if they'd be into it, and they were, and they turned it into something just like I trusted they would.
Yeah. And that was, you told me who I'd be working with, and I was like, really? I don't really think they need me, but I didn't question you. I trusted you. Yeah. And it worked out well.
Worked out great.
I knew I could trust your, what your vision was, and I feel like we did better.
Yeah. So what's your favorite memory from that period?
Oh, it was the ladder match.
Okay.
Against the Carnival. And I fucked up the handcuffs on Veronica Payne, and we almost didn't get her detached. And it worked out though, because she'd lost the spare key that she had tucked into her outfit.
Got it.
And she had to go fishing a little deeper than she anticipated.
Well.
And then they stole my purse from me and hit me with it, and I fell down dead.
There you go. Can't look for more than that. Then you transition one more time.
Yep.
Attitude Inc. What's it like moving from All Eyes on Us to Attitude Inc.?
I didn't have 8,000 spots during every show, so I wasn't as sweaty.
Yep.
And working with two people I've known the longest and never worked with.
Yeah.
It was nice. Like I've got two of my oldest friends with me, and I know you guys are going to take care of me. So there wasn't a whole lot of stress. Like with All Eyes on Us, I really hadn't worked with them. I knew Micah when he trained with New Midwest,
Right.
but I didn't know Nelson. So took me a little while to find my little groove with them. But, with you and Spencer, it was like that.
Yeah. Well, it's we kind of talked about it a little bit before, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more. But, again, that thing of like, All Eyes on Us were kind of those guys that had spots for and used you a lot, and I was glad that they did that, know. And then when you were with Attitude Inc., I just, we were all we all knew how to find our spots, and I knew you'd be a good fit with me and Spencer because you know how to insert yourself when you need to and find your spots. And, it was good chemistry the whole way through.
Well, and, because I watched you guys wrestle for years and years and
Right.
years, I already knew what to expect from the both of you.
Yeah.
And, All Eyes on Us pushed my comfort zones with the amount of stuff I had to remember and do. And then you have pushed me more with the whole speaking on the microphone because I think you like making me uncomfortable. But no, you were trying to push me.
I mean, that's not inaccurate.
But, it pushed me into some stuff different things. And I'd actually wrestled more matches in PWA.
Yeah.
Which was a new thing.
Yeah. Well, we had to do, so you'd been in a few matches before. I mean, sometimes managers just have to be in matches. Like we just have to get to that point.
The first match I ever wrestled was still with New Midwest, and we were in Kincaid.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be me and Truck and Peanut and Dan the Man.
Okay.
And we were supposed to have a mixed tag, and then Peanut couldn't make it.
Right.
So then it turned into a handicap match. And so that was like the first time I had ever wrestled.
Yeah.
And that was nerve-wracking.
Yeah. I thought you didn't do any tag matches with Stan, with John?
No.
No?
No. And at this time, he had
Okay.
been taking a break from wrestling because, he was
Right.
going through some stuff with his
Yeah.
back. And, so I was teamed up with Truck.
Right. I don't remember you teaming up with Chuck. I don't think
It was,
I wasn't there for
it
much
was real
that.
brief.
Yeah.
And, and at one time, Truck and the coach and Dodgeball Guy was part of John's little team that we had going on at Lamphir.
Yeah.
Because the coach was James Redunzel.
Right.
So.
Oh, that's right. Gosh.
Yeah.
Man, they always say like I've forgotten more than I know. Like I'm starting to understand that. So we do have to talk because we had two. I remember specifically two matches with you. The one where you had to step in because we didn't have a girl to wrestle Harley.
Yeah.
And so you wrestled Harley. That was, I was so proud of you that night. Because I knew it could be everything it needed to be. I knew you'd be super nervous and fight me on it. But I knew we could put together something that would make the fans feel like they saw a wrestling match, even though they didn't really need to see much of one.
This is where you hide your weaknesses thing.
Yeah. Yep. So we got a match out of that. But then when we did one of my favorite memories of the last few years was the match at Grand Wrestling Spectacle,
Yep.
where it was Attitude Inc.
Mm-hmm.
and Ben's Derek and Shauna.
Yep.
And that match was just a lot of fun. I enjoyed that match.
It was.
I enjoyed that match.
Yep.
And and again, we didn't make you do much. I knew you were capable of doing what we needed you to do, so I was into it.
I had forgotten how to bump, and I had to be taught how to bump again.
Yeah, I remember we did some sessions building up to that.
Yeah.
You were bumping right away, but also I've become a much bigger believer that we don't necessarily need to bump.
Well, in our
particularly
old
you,
age.
particularly you. Well, let me talk more about that. Particularly you weren't a wrestler, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So you didn't need to get in there and have these awesome wrestling spots. They just needed to be elevated manager spots.
Yeah.
But I had a blast with all that. I had a blast working with you. So Attitude Inc. breaks up. Finished our run. What was your biggest memory from your Attitude Inc. from the Attitude Inc. run?
I mean, that was the Grand Wrestling.
Wasn't
yeah,
the
yeah,
match?
and getting speared by Shauna at the end.
Yeah.
And feeling like I did it like a champ.
It was great. It was great.
And and again in Quincy when I had to pretend to wrestle.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. Even if I did forget my outfit and I had to run to Walmart to buy one. Like I was just so
to go to
stressed
Walmart.
out.
Jesus, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
had to go.
I didn't realize I'd forgotten my outfit until I got there.
Awesome.
And I was having an absolute panic attack and ran to Walmart
Awesome.
and then found the shirt that said Savage on it. It was pink and I'm like, it was meant to be.
Yeah. So, since then, you've been on another hiatus.
Yeah,
Had some more time off. We all have.
yeah.
Looking back at your career. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I didn't realize I'd be doing it this long.
Yeah.
And and I hate traveling, which is probably why I never did any more. We worked a few shows, Justin and I, when we first started coming to New Midwest, got booked in Chicago a few times. I almost got arrested. Some drunk guy got too close to me and I pushed him away, and so they were going to arrest me for assault.
Oh, which makes sense.
And then the charges got dropped.
Well,
So.
imagine that.
But they wrestled in a storage unit, and then that day they had moved the ring outside because it was July.
Right. A million degrees in that little storage unit. Yeah.
And I traveled to SCW in Iowa one time, and I actually went with All Eyes on Us recently to a show in Indiana. And we worked that show there, and that was in a bar, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was again compact space,
Right.
but it was a 21 and up show, and in a bar, and we had the whole upstairs to ourselves. So a lot of the problems with some of these places is there's no dressing room.
Yeah.
When we were at the American Center and we had to use the lattice and put the garbage bags over the lattice work to have a backstage.
Well,
And then we'd have to walk around to go to the bathroom that was on the other side of the room.
make do with what you can. That's the name of the game. That's independent wrestling.
Yeah. So, and I mean, the warehouse was perfect because we had the green room.
Right. Perfect. I never liked the warehouse.
I mean, it was far too big for what we needed.
Yeah.
It
was.
It finally had adequate parking, which
Yeah.
was always a problem. Either the building was great and the parking was terrible, or the parking was great and the building was terrible.
Yeah.
Because we had great parking at the American Center, but the building was terrible.
Right.
And at the USA Sports Center, the building was great, the parking was terrible.
Yeah.
So,
And the neighbors were bad.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other thing.
yeah. Even if the neighbors weren't bad, it was still going to be a
Right.
crappy situation.
Right. So that's it. That's your career.
Yeah, it's my whole career. I started in 2003.
Yeah. How you feel?
I mean, I'm old.
You're not old.
And
Older.
that's the thing is being in the locker room with a lot of the younger kids, and I'm
Yeah.
just
It's weird.
I could be your mother.
I feel like a lot of their fathers.
Yeah.
Nah, it's weird it's weirdest to me to look back and be able to see all of the things, see them making mistakes that I made. You know what I mean? Or at least doing things that I did.
Yeah.
And just being like, hey kid, Don't. And you know, and them looking at me like I would have looked at anybody who had told me that.
I know, it's like looking at our younger selves now. And we go, how did we survive any of this?
Man, for real. You know, it's also difficult for me because I say a lot of times that our group, this Central Illinois group, like our biggest benefit was that we had no vets around. Like we really built this thing by ourselves. You know,
Yeah.
we made our own rules. We would hear this rule and this etiquette thing, you know, and we learned all that stuff, but we built our own world here and had
Yeah.
our own ecosystem. But then I also say a lot of times that our biggest detriment was that we had no vets and, you know, nobody who could help us, keep us from making mistakes, and nobody who could say, hey, you're worried about this thing, don't be, you know, or this is the important thing. So like that dueling mindset always makes it tough when I have to decide what advice am I going to give, you know, how am I going to get, I don't like to think of myself as a vet, but I am an experienced member of the locker room. And so like, I always have to think of, you know what I mean? It's tough for me to think about that now.
Yeah. I mean, looking back, for me, there was never any vets for what I'm trying to do either. So I had to figure it out with every change.
Right. Right. So if you could go back, would you do anything different?
No.
No? It's good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any regrets with anything I've done with wrestling.
It's good. Well, I can't think of a better place to wrap up this week. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Stephani, for going through your whole career with us. It's always a blast to just sit and kind of give the rundown and, you know, hit all the big moments. But so next week, we will be back with Miss Stephani King, and we're going to talk about, I want to talk a little bit more about how you learned how to do it, you know, your development over, you know, we kind of laid out your whole career.
Yeah.
And so I want to come back and kind of talk about how you developed through it, how you learned about the business and that kind of thing. So we'll be back next week. I don't have a good close. I need a
You need a catchphrase.
I need a catchphrase. We'll be back in my mind next week with the legend Steph. No.
That's a no for me.
We'll be running with the lions.